Today's episode is sponsored by Vitality Health RX Supplements. Whether you're an athlete, a busy professional, or just someone looking to prioritize health, Vitality Health RX has what you need. With premium ingredients and rigorous quality control, their supplements support your body's natural functions. Visit shopvrx.com and use code FEELGREAT15 for 15% off your first order. Thanks to Vitality Health RX for sponsoring this episode. Now let's dive in.
Welcome, listeners, to Feel Better, Feel Great podcast, episode 110. Rest and Restore, the Art of Quality Sleep. I am Dr. Andrea McSwain. Before we delve into today's podcast content, I want to remind you that while I am a medical professional, the information shared here is intended for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for personalized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider for guidance tailored to your specific health needs. Now let's embark on this journey of health education together. Well, we know what it's like to have a great sleep. Or do we? I should say that when you have a great sleep, you know it. I mean, it really seems so variable based on what you ate, what's going on in life, where you are when you're ready to sleep. I mean, these are big ifs to getting a good night's sleep. Quality of sleep is highly coveted, but rarely cultivated. We just kind of expect it to kind of land on us for it to happen. And then when it doesn't happen, it's just chaos for us. It's really disturbing to spend a day working, trying to be productive when the night's sleep prior has not been restorative. And so as we age or we have medical conditions, the importance of quality of sleep becomes more prominent in our minds. We definitely know how much sleep impacts all of our health and well-being. So sleep quality, as I mentioned, can vary based on different factors such as diet, lifestyle, environment. I know for me, I am rarely without my sleep prep routine, and this includes lifestyle things as well as supplements. So what gets in the way of quality sleep? Well, I have to say, of all the things that I love about Johnny Carson, one of the things that I think has created a massive disruption in our sleep patterns is late night television. And there's a lot of people that I really like. Craig Ferguson, Jon Stewart. There were a lot of people that I feel like gave us really quality education into the night. But what happened with Johnny Carson is he really, I think, broke the mold about getting to bed because he was so funny. And the late night television became very disruptive. People started, of course, putting TVs in their bedrooms, staying up past the time that they would naturally rest and kind of fade into sleep. And so late night TV played a big role, and now digital devices provide us with a light source that is equivalent to the sun when it comes to waking up our brain to be awake, much like it is during the day. So we get that sun signal to stay awake, and that can keep us awake even after we've turned off those devices. Because then it stimulates an entire cascade of staying awake, right? The sun is designed to keep our brains thinking that it's daytime and thinking that it's time to do things and be productive and be awake. Okay, so the other thing is that we often seek in late night TV or looking at our digital devices and scanning through social media or other YouTube and such, a dopamine response, which is sometimes the day is long and hard. And we get to the end of the day and we're looking for something that provides us with joy. And that is the dopamine hormone. So there's a lot of ways that people can sometimes look to receive dopamine from relying on things that make them happy in social media or engaged in different television shows or episodes. And that can actually lend itself for people to stay awake. So as I mentioned, the obstacle of especially blue light from screens, turning on our brains, oftentimes caffeine consumption can be very stimulating. Obviously, caffeine is a stimulant. And if taking it even into the early afternoon, that can sometimes be too much. And caffeine doesn't just come from coffee. It also comes from teas or chocolate. And then another thing is stress. So I want to bring kind of two questions as I explore obstacles to quality of sleep. And stress lends itself to keeping you awake to answer questions, right? So most people can't solve the world's problems while sleeping, or while not sleeping rather. And so these two questions really are for you if you're the person that stays up at night thinking about how to solve all the problems. Now, first of all, kudos to you because your brain is working and you're a problem solver. So we're going to lend your brain to problem solving to help you sleep. And I think that is a very effective method when people think about how to sleep, because when they're problem solvers, their brain is working and we want their brain dedicated to their body relaxing and falling asleep. It's not this idea that you just say, okay, I'm going to stop thinking. It's actually a way to almost trick your brain. And there's many ways that I do this, but one of the things that I like to do is propose two questions. So, am I the right temperature? And so when you ask yourself, am I the right temperature? And you're laying in bed and you think, oh, am I the right temperature? Am I too warm? Am I too cold? Should I cover my feet or uncover my feet? Do I need another blanket? That is one important question because it's lending itself to bringing you more comfort and preparing you for more sleep or for quality sleep. The second thing is, am I cozy enough? And I like the thought of being cozy. So, do you have a pillow that maybe you need between your knees and your ankles? Do you want to have something that's behind your back? Is your pillow too high for your head or too low? Or, are all the blankets tucked around you, or is it too much? So those are the two questions that lend your problem-solving mind to helping you get ready for sleep and having quality sleep. So I want to bring that to your attention. So how important is sleep? Well, I think it's obviously very important. It's one of the lifestyle pillars. And so the lifestyle pillars, again, are sleep, diet, movement, stress, and relationships. Sleep is very foundational. So when you receive restorative sleep, you're able to think better, feel better, and your immune system works better. Some of the other things that happen at night is your gut does a lot of work in helping you heal. So if you are someone that has some digestive issues and you're finding you don't have quality sleep, then there might be some extra work that your gut is having to do at night. And it's not really dedicating itself to the sleep aspect, but more to the gut restoration. And if that's the case, you might look at when you're eating. You might eat a little bit earlier in the night, or you might even conversely need to have a snack closer to going to bed that isn't high in sugar. It's a very simple to process food. So maybe it's an apple slice or two with a little bit of almond butter is an option that I tell people. Some people, I talk to them about tryptophan foods, like a little chunk of turkey that they cook themselves and kind of chunk into 1 ounce chunks and put in the freezer so it can thaw. Tryptophan is in lots of food, but it seems there's something special in turkey to kind of help that tryptophan hormone get into our bodies and make us feel really sedate and help with the quality of sleep. And that's very important. Sleep has a lot of different dynamics that I will get into in later episodes for nuances. I will say, though, when you have sleep, you have more health. And that is very important because when you have chronic sleep deprivation, then you even start changing like your hormone patterns, how much cortisol you're releasing, how you're handling situations. And this is a tip that I give to people who smoke because I mentioned that caffeine is a stimulant and so is cigarettes. I have met many people who struggle with often the diagnosis called anxiety. And what do they do in the night if they're smokers is they wake up and smoke. Well, that is a stimulant that will then leave someone awake for hours. If someone has anxiety and now they also have sleep problems because a cigarette is a stimulant in the middle of the night, then that will affect their mood and could possibly create some more anxiety in the day. And while I understand it's very difficult to stop smoking, my suggestion for people when they are considering stopping smoking, that they stop smoking the last cigarette before they go to bed first. So they make the initiative to push back the last cigarette that they have before they go to bed by at least an hour and a half. And I think a lot of patients have found a lot of success with this idea because it's not saying throw everything away, stop everything, which can be challenging and some people can do it. And I think that's wonderful. But what it's saying is create a system that's more effective. So when people stop smoking around the time before they go to bed and they give it at least an hour and a half, a 2-hour window, a 2.5-hour window, they start creeping that cigarette away from their sleep time. Then their body will not have that stimulant. They'll have improved sleep. If they do wake up in the night, I encourage them to not have a cigarette or a cup of coffee or a glass of soda, but instead, if they can, not have any of those things and attempt to return to sleep so that when they wake up, they now have a better footing for the day. And they feel a little more grounded, which is going to help with reducing the triggers that come on with anxiety, reducing some of the response that can come with anxiety or mood dysregulation in general from sleep fatigue. And that is one of the benefits that I have found in that kind of subset of the population. Now, I will also give a little bit of another caveat, which is the people who talk about using a cup of coffee to help them get to sleep. Now, I consider that like a reverse situation. So the person is so tired that they need a stimulant to help them sleep. And that's how I phrase when someone tells me that they sleep really well when they have a cup of coffee, because I understand that they're probably so wired and tired that the coffee is probably acting to give them a little bit of energy, enough for them to sleep. Now, that might sound a little counterintuitive unless you're that person who uses caffeine and can go to bed or needs a cup of coffee even to go to sleep. And because your body has become so wired that it's difficult to even get to sleep, some people do find that caffeine actually gives them the energy. And while I say that might be something that's very, very temporary, it isn't supportive of the natural hormonal response of our body to be stimulated more in the morning with cortisol and to have that peak mid-morning, late morning, for example, and then to have that natural decline. So just think about how the sun rises, gets to a peak, and then it fades. That's the same thing that our natural stress hormone called cortisol does. And then that's the way that we have a natural waking and stimulation in the day, and then a resting period as we go into the evening, and then sleep. So that's how we cycle in the day, and that's how our patterns through the day are supported. I want to go into thinking about how do you define good sleep. And I think that, first of all, some people never even know what good sleep is. A lot of people struggle with, that idea because they might not ever really get good night's sleep. So first of all, I want to talk briefly about quantity. This is something that a lot of people struggle with, the idea of how much sleep in hours do I actually need. And it actually, in general, is based on how you feel. But if you live in climates such as Michigan, where, or even more extreme times where in the winter, the day itself is very short, and in the summer, the day is extremely long, that can switch up how many hours you need. The other thing is if you're on a very regimented routine, that can be extremely helpful to organize your sleep patterns and improve sleep, and in some ways reduce the actual hours that you need. I will say in general, people look to 6.5 to 8 hours. You can oversleep, and you most definitely can undersleep. So oversleeping is really kind of just generating a lot of sluggishness, maybe even some depressive mood where you're like, I'm just not really going to do anything today. Nothing really feels right. The body doesn't have the movement that it needs to stay energized. And so there can be oversleeping. But then usually people don't have the opportunity to do that. And obviously that can be with rare exceptions where you have a really long time sleeping, and you're just doing it because it just feels nice, because sometimes it does. But then looking at sleep deprivation. So for people that's actually sustained sleep hours less than 6 hours a night. And I learned about this as a resident. We were told about this during the first week of residency because sleep deprivation is a sustained part of residency. And in some places, sleep deprivation can be categorized as driving under the influence because it does so significantly impair our cognitive functions, our motor skills, our response time, and it is similar to alcohol and drug intoxication. You can't concentrate, make decisions, react quickly. All these things are compromised. And so there are laws regarding driving, and they do extend sometimes into sleep-deprived driving. So I want to encourage you that if that's something you're experiencing, then it can have an impact on, your motor functions, as including driving. And so I think that's an important consideration. Okay, so what is quality sleep? Well, quality sleep, I think in a nutshell, is where you wake up and you feel restored. So you're not dragging, there's no pain. You feel like you feel somewhat complete. You might feel your muscles have relaxed, your chest might be open, your eyes are calm, your brain is excited for a new day. And those are maybe subjective for sure, because I think that feeling of restorative sleep is one of satisfaction and almost even a quest for the next great night of sleep. So those are some things. I'd be curious what you think quality of sleep means to you, or how you would define if you have a really wonderful, restful night of sleep. So how do you improve your quality of sleep? And it's possible, right? I said, highly coveted, but rarely cultivated. And strategies for improving sleep quality are very important. You probably recognize that I think people should turn off the screens and limit screen time about an hour and a half before bed. If you are hanging out for a while with some screen time, even an hour and a half before bed, you might even want to do a few stretches, just some mat work where you're just laying on the mat or sitting on the mat, just kind of moving around and getting some blood circulating, believe it or not, to help you sleep. So that's important. The other thing, as I mentioned, is managing stress. I really like those two questions. So, are you the right temperature? Or asking yourself, am I the right temperature? Do I feel cozy? And making your problem-solving mind work for you to help you sleep. And then what is your sleep environment like? It should be very dark. It should be quiet. Some people like a white noise fan, for example. Other people do not. Having music and television on is really disturbing to sleep quality. If you have that as part of your routine for sleep, it is important to learn how to wean yourself off of that, because although people say, well, I have to have this on to sleep, you might want to switch first to white noise so that you have a noise, but it's not a noise that has different sounds and volumes, and could even be somewhat provocative with your emotional responses if you're hearing them. If something gets into a extremely pleasant, funny, or unpleasant dynamic on the screen, and it's running and you're sleeping, but you're still receiving inputs from your environment. Also important for sleep environment is not having pets in the bed. Pets in the bed are often, they're unaware of your needs as a person, and they love you. So they want to be really close to you, or they want to snuggle with you, or they shift a lot, or they might snore. Any number of things that pets do, that they might try to sleep on your head if they're a cat. And so that isn't really optimizing your sleep environment. If you have pets and they're in the bed, it is a difficult thing to break them of. Sometimes if you do need to break some of these habits like that, weekends are important for that. So you can alternate or incorporate rather a few other hours of sleep in. But pets in the bed, if it can be broken as a habit or never implemented as a habit, it's so much better to your sleep quality. And that's an important consideration. We do have a questionnaire on sleep quality. It is offered by the Institute for Functional Medicine, and it walks through some helpful guides to break down, what is sleep quality, what are your sleep habits, and identify areas for improvement. The last thing I would say is I rarely give up my sleep prep routine. And for me, that's a little bit of movement. That's definitely staying away from my screen time. That is also supplementation. And you can be liquid sparing, which is also important before bed. So limiting how much liquid you have. Looking towards magnesium. And I would say, depending on the magnesium, I prefer a blend that you need about 200 to 400 milligrams. And then melatonin has sleep properties. The dosage for melatonin can vary quite a bit because you can also add it as an antioxidant. But melatonin is the getting to sleep hormone. And no matter what the dose, it does have enough to help your brain get to sleep, if that is your problem. Okay. It definitely supports relaxation of the body. Particularly magnesium is wonderful for skeletal muscle relaxation. So these are the sleep aids that I recommend as first steps. Other people, and you'll see also Institute for Functional Medicine, they discuss other things like possibly even GABA or 5-HTP. These are neurotransmitters that I think are important, but neurotransmitters are not your first line of thinking. Now, well, you might say melatonin is a hormone neurotransmitter, but it's not tightly regulated in the body in such a way that taking it can have adverse effects. Actually, melatonin in very high doses is a powerful antioxidant. So taking a lot of melatonin is not detrimental. But when you get into some other neurotransmitters, they can have different effects based on dosage. I like to recommend magnesium and melatonin for the first steps, and then consider neurotransmitters if the magnesium and melatonin are ineffective. So in conclusion, just considering, ditching that late night TV, I would say if that's really hard for you, then maybe one night a week, particularly the beginning of a work week, might be very, very good for you. Realize that sleep quality is really a foundation lifestyle pillar. So there's a lot of other things I mentioned in this episode related to sleep. It is not the only conversation that I hope to present to you on sleep. There's many aspects of sleep, many dynamics to sleep, but I feel like this is a great place to get started. If you want to tell me what you think, like and subscribe and share with others who have this problem, I would really look forward to thanking you for that and appreciate you doing it. And then I just want to leave you with this, that an Irish proverb, a good laugh and a long sleep are the best cures in the doctor's book. Thank you.